10 years ago, Abraham Lincoln gave a speech called the Gettysburg Address, a speech widely viewed by Americans as the best in our history. Many people who reviewed the speech at this time were actually greatly disappointed. You must realize that people had traveled for hours by train, by horse, and by foot just to listen to a 2-minute speech dedicating a field. To commemorate the sesquicentennial, or the 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, I am here to set the record straight. The critics were right. The speech was garbage, and here is why. Lincoln began the Gettysburg Address by claiming our fathers brought forth on a continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. A statement that he both never believed and frequently contradicted in his private and political life. A letter written by Lincoln to Horace Greeley, a newspaper editor and avid abolitionist. A year and 3 months before the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln stated, "If I could keep the Union together without freeing any slaves, I would. If I could keep it together with freeing all the slaves, I would. If I could keep it together by freeing some of the slaves and not freeing others, I would." What I do about slavery and the colored race, I do because I believe it helps to save the Union. This speech was a true travesty. Even if the point of the war was to end slavery, there was never a need for war because it had ended peacefully in Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. It also ended peacefully for the Brits, Spanish, Dutch, Danes, and according to Lew Rockwell, Chief of Staff for Texas Congressman Ron Paul, many others. According to Lincoln, the point of war was not to end slavery, rather keep the Union together. Slavery was nothing more than a red herring hiding the true issue, which was control. The rest of the speech was lofty, flowery, and vague. Lincoln stated to conclude his speech, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot hollow, we cannot concentrate this ground. Let me tell you about hollow ground. According to the History Channel, from November 15th to December 21st of 1864, a march for 285 miles from Atlanta to Savannah, Georgia, the troops raided plantations, stealing and slaughtering cows, chickens, turkeys, sheep, and hogs, and were taking other food. They burned houses, plantations, farms, and factories. They killed at will. Sherman said, "They need to show old and young, rich and poor, how the hand of war felt." Now, when innocent people die for living in a certain area, I believe this is the meaning of true hollow ground. If the Gettysburg Address was meant to be honest, here are a few key points Lincoln should have covered. 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in slavery and dedicated to the proposition that relationships need consenting adults or voluntary. Also, the fact that he disagreed with the founding principles with this country and the founding fathers were themselves secessionists. This couldn't be said in the position he was in, although would it be shocking for him to have said in his private life. The facts are, if slavery was the issue at hand, there was not a need for war, as slavery had ended peacefully all across the world. The thoughts and emotions portrayed in this speech were ones of great intentions, lofty rhetoric, although after the speech, Sherman made his march to the sea, killing thousands. The Gettysburg Address will be viewed as one of the best American speeches, although to some it is rhetoric of a man who cares much more about the effects words have on his audience than the context he is speaking of.